We're going to have a bit of a transition period here for a few minutes. I'm going to invite Geoff Aigner from Life Without Barriers, who's going to spend a couple of minutes sharing with us while we get some of our employees up onto the stage, and we're going to have an employee panel session which will be hosted by Andrew Davis. So I'm going to hand over to Geoff now.
Hi everyone, this is the part of the program where you have to hear from one of the sponsors. So here I am. Don't worry, I'll be short. I also want to hear from the employees, so this won't take very long. Who we are, Life Without Barriers, that's our banner over there. We're a social services organisation. We began in Newcastle just over 20 years ago with a group of families who saw the services that were being provided for people with a disability and went, this is not okay. So from that small group of advocates, we are now a 4,000-person organisation supporting 2,000 people with a disability in 370 offices around Australia with a $500 million turnover. So we're a big beast in the disability space. Why we're here today, apart from some of the things that Michael Fieldhouse mentioned earlier, is there's a lot going on in the sector. The NDIS is the rollout of the National Disability Insurance Scheme is not just the change in funding, it's also a catalyst for a radical and long-term change in how people with a disability are able to look at their lives and what they do, and how those of us in the sector are also able to look at how people with a disability's lives roll out. All of the financial and transitional pain aside of rolling out the NDIS presents an opportunity, and I think the biggest opportunity is how we look at the whole of life of someone with a disability, not just where do they live, what are they going to do today, training, education, supports, all in little boxes as they've been in the past, but look at this as a whole system and how can this have a different outcome in terms of economic and social participation. So that's what we're really interested in. Particularly in my team, in the social innovation team, how do we get participation in the economy and society for people with a disability? And one of our priorities over the coming year is a new venture, which hopefully we'll be able to launch later this year, which is looking specifically at neurodiverse employment, sourcing, preparing and supporting people in role. The work that people like DXC and SAP and Microsoft have been able to do is a lot of work, and not everyone is able to do that work on their own, and we're looking at creating something that can support employers and employees to go through those kind of transitions. So we're very much inspired by the people who've been on the stage, and we want to take it to scale in a bit of a different way, but more on that later in the year. For this to be successful, what we do to be successful requires collaboration. With community, with other players, with employers and across the sector. So probably one of the main reasons we're here today is to make connections with you if you're interested in what we're interested in. Me and my colleague Jane, can you identify yourself, Jane? There she is, are around all day. Please come and say hello, and maybe we can do some work together. I'm going to get off. Hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and thank you for these few minutes.
Well, hello again, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the day so far. We're changing up a little bit now. We've got 5 employees who are all on the spectrum and engaged in different programs with employers that you've heard from today. We've got Ryan, Simon, this is immediately to my left, Ryan, Simon, Matthew, Claire and Tori. I'm not going to introduce them any further than that. I'm going to ask each of them to tell you who they are, what their current role is, and describe, from a strengths-based approach, what they think their strengths are that have allowed them to find the roles that they're in at the moment.
Hi, I'm working for DXC in a relatively new area in research and development, and I think I bring, my strengths are following every little rabbit hole or every little possibility in what I'm doing to the very end, and not leaving anything behind even when everyone else has given up. I still push through it.
Right. Hey, I'm Simon. I am employee of DXC. However, I'm a software tester working with Department of Immigration and Border Protection. We test client-side web applications and the visa processing platforms that Aigner interfaces with. I think my strengths are that when I find I'm passionate about something, I throw myself into it wholeheartedly and take it to, I guess, its logical conclusion. So I find becoming a subject matter expert is something that I'm naturally good at, and I'm also ambitious, I guess. So I plan to go far in the future. Yeah.
I'm Matthew. I'm also a software tester with DXC, specifically now with the Department of Immigration and Border Protection. I actually work with Simon. I find that my strengths are like a good attention to detail. I can pick up a lot of the smaller flaws, the contradictions in the documents that crop up in large projects, and allow them to be fixed before they start costing lots of money later on in the life cycle. So yeah.
I'm Claire, I'm from SAP, and my role is actually twofold. So half of my role is that I'm based in the project management office in Canberra and help with working with the project manager there, working on several of our major projects. And the other half is that I'm the early talent ambassador for Australia and New Zealand. So I work with the under 32s in the company across Australia and New Zealand, giving them opportunities to meet with senior executives and basically improve their life and time at SAP. And in terms of skills, I guess some of the big ones that I bring are impeccable time management, again, a very strong attention to detail, and yeah, just general want to work.
Hi, I'm Tori. I have a couple of roles at the Autism CRC. I have a support role in the research office, which involves a lot of record management and reporting sort of stuff, although it can be lots of different things. But my new role that I'm really excited about is I'm the project coordinator for the Autism CRC's new leadership program for autistic adults, which is being announced this week. And I guess I have a lot of the analytical attention to detail sort of skills that a lot of other people represented here on the panel have, but I also just have, I guess, very much an awareness of, in some ways, how fortunate I am in terms of my abilities, and I'm just really passionate about creating employment and empowerment sort of opportunities for other autistic adults. So I guess my passion there is a key thing that I'm able to bring to the CRC.
Okay, thanks one and all for that. The question, just a general question, and we don't have to take it in order, but before you obtained your current position, what were some of the biggest challenges for you in trying to find employment? Anyone want to kick that one off?
I'm happy to start that one if I guess with me, SAP is not my first corporate job, but I'm the type of person who likes to fill my calendar extremely full. And so I'm currently doing full-time university, running an orchestra and working at SAP. So in the lead up to going for my job at SAP, having the time to actually have a job was always interesting, and being able to, first year uni, you go for a retail job, they're expecting about 25 to 30 hours a week that you're happy to work and that you'll just be free whenever they want you, and having to say no to that every time is definitely always a barrier. But I think SAP has been very good in that they're very flexible with when I will work, and sometimes, obviously uni, you've got a lot of assessment. There's a week that I've got a lot of assessment, I won't be in the office, I'll be doing uni, but then I'll come back and I'll do it later. So that's been very good.
That's it.
For me, it's a little bit weird because before I took this job at DXC, I was studying full-time in a software engineering course. I've had retail jobs, and I worked for the student union for a while at La Trobe University, but I've never actually also looked for a full-time position because I haven't actually graduated yet. So I guess I'm in a bit of a different situation. I've never really tried either before I got this job.
Ron?
Right. Before this work came around, I've always been in full-time work, but never in the industry that I wanted to be into. I've been in a lot of outdoors jobs or in full-time at Woolworths or whatever. But the DXC and Specialist Turn gave me this opportunity to break into the industry that I've always wanted to be at. Maybe a little late in life, but I'm here now and I'm really happy with that. So that was my difficulty.
Did you want to add something?
Yeah,
Simon?
sure.
Yep.
I've had a lot of contract jobs in my past. Never had a position that allowed me to step into something that had led me towards a career. So I find that finding that role that will allow me to show an employer my strengths and then find a suitable position beyond that initial role is something that's I've found very difficult before now.
Okay, thanks. Next question. We've heard from a lot of the speakers that it's not just about getting the job, it's about retaining and sustaining jobs. I want to start with the recruitment process. Were there any aspects of the recruitment process for your current role that made the process easier or better for you in terms of the outcome that you got, which is obviously a job, and allowed you to demonstrate your strengths through that recruitment process to your prospective employer? I might ask Tori to start with that one.
Yeah, I guess with the CRC, I kind of started off in a sort of ad hoc voluntary capacity. I think Andrew will attest to the fact that from our very first conversation that the two of us had, I said that we needed to have an autistic leadership program, and probably many conversations since then before I actually had a job with the CRC. But an opportunity came up to evaluate a previous leadership program, and because of my already engaged interest in that, I was offered that role as a contract, and through proving myself through that experience, it sort of worked into me being able to put my name forward and say, I'm interested in being involved if this program gets off the ground, and we were able to get to the position we are now.
So you demonstrated
through this initial 3-month contract what I was able to do, and it's kind of led to more things.
And she demonstrated it in the end by a presentation to the board on the program, which was outstanding, I should mention. Ryan, you said you'd had lots of other jobs, but you were given the opportunity here. It was different through the DXC Specialist Stern process. What was different about that allowed you to get a job in the space that you actually wanted to be in?
So before this role, a lot of the jobs that I got were based on previous experience, and employers wanted to know what I had done and how that could transfer into what they were doing. So with the way Specialist Stern and DXC approached my employment, instead of having an interview, we had a whole day session doing various activities, and when I'm not confident in what I'm doing, I can be very hesitant in doing anything, but this allowed me to become more comfortable in my environment over the course of the day and let some of my stronger points shine through. And then there was another 4-week process working with these two gentlemen and a few other people, where over the course of that 4 weeks, again, I was able to get comfortable in the environment, confident in what I was doing, and really show what I was capable of. So.
Does anyone else want to comment? Claire, how about SAP?
I think SAP is doing something really interesting, even just with hiring young people to begin with. I don't think I've met a single millennial who likes doing job interviews, and many people will know that the grad interview process is you see a question on a screen and you have to read out a response to a video. No human interaction, nothing, no chance to actually show what you're really like. You just have to essentially recite your resume. That doesn't work well for many people. It takes years before you know how to interview, and I would guess that many people in this room don't like interviews to this day. But SAP ran assessment centres. They skipped the whole first few stages that most places do in terms of doing the interviews, sending through like a video interview face-to-face, went straight to the assessment centre and said, okay, let's just put them in a room and see what they can do. Now, it started with coding. Anybody who knows me knows that I can't code. I'm not a technology-based person. But there was also a presentation aspect, and that's something that I'm really good at. I've done a lot of public speaking in my past, I've done a lot of presentations, and I do a lot of that at my university degree. And so I really could show what I knew there. And it wasn't expected that you would know exactly what to do. It was that, what can we find out about you through this? And I think that's really important, and that applies to everyone. It doesn't just apply in this context.
Thanks, Claire. So now on to the sustaining the job. We've heard again that throughout the day that employers need to look at their practices and processes and so on and make reasonable accommodations. What accommodations were made for you in the workplace, if any? I'm assuming there were. How did they come about, and have they been helpful from your sustaining your position? Yeah, okay, thanks, Simon.
Well, we have I guess, a separate room that's just built offside the main work floor, where all of our pod members are, I guess, situated in, and all of the doors have been removed. So we've got a kind of a partial separation from the workforce, but we do, heavily interact with people on the main floor. I think that is a good transition step for us. So that was pretty good accommodation, I think. But personally, I found that I have a sensory issue where it's difficult for me to concentrate if there are, I guess, a lot of sounds around. So I was supplied with some noise-cancelling headphones, which definitely makes it easier for me to read and analyse documents. So that was a great accommodation that was made for me.
Well, I work in the same location as Simon, so a lot of it's very similar. I'd say the other thing, though, is that we tend to work in very small teams. There's only 4 or 5 people there's like 3 leaders and 11 people in the pod split amongst them. So it's much easier to talk to someone about problems when, it's not just a team lead of over 20 employees.
Okay. Next question. A couple of the speakers talked about mentoring. Some put, the one-to-one mentoring programs on. How important have mentors been for you in going into these roles, and what makes a good mentor?
I'd say that we've got 2 mentors. We've got our team lead, and we've also got the autism spectrum consultant who helps us with non-work related, specifically work-related issues about the workplace. And I'd say they've been very helpful, and that mostly it's just a need to be patient as issues crop up and how to deal with them.
Tori, do you want to add to that one?
I guess I'm lucky with the CRC in that we've only got quite a small staff and a lot of people with very skilled things in different areas. So I've got pretty open relationships with people that I can go to for advice. But I've also, through the process of developing this program, been mentored by the chair of the board for the CRC. So I think that it's just a matter of having that open communication and being able to discuss and think through different relationships and kind of reflect back on how different interactions have gone in meetings, because I think sometimes people can get a bit stressed and feel a bit uncomfortable, and then that can kind of colour how people think that other people might feel about them and perceive them, and it can sometimes just be useful to take that little step away and have a discussion about that to kind of ground you again, if that makes sense.
Okay. I'm going to finish with one question for each of you. We've heard, so today the employer forum was very much a peer-to-peer for employers to learn from other employers as to the lessons and how you implement a program and so on. This is your chance. What advice would you give to employers who were thinking about employing people who are neurodiverse? And we'll go across the panel if that's all right. You start. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, keep challenging us. Don't let us get bored. As soon as we get bored, we become self-destructive. So yeah, just keep challenging. If you think we're getting bored, put more on the plate, put the pressure on, give us some training, just keep pushing the limit.
Yeah. I totally agree with Ryan. I would say environment's incredibly important. So I don't know if anybody is familiar with chemistry, but auto-assembly, you put a bunch of chemicals together and they can create amazing structures like seashells. And just once you get that environment right, everything just grows. So I think bringing all the elements like work culture has already been discussed, support on both a personal and also technical kind of job development level, and having that support there, but not letting that support structure that you've built get in the way of the personal and professional development of the staff.
I agree as well. I'd say then that also that, yeah, it's just a matter of being patient while we learn things. We learn things at different rates and at different times, but we are fully capable of accomplishing anything as well, if given the challenge and the time.
I think I've got 2 suggestions. The first one is, and it's going to sound really cliche, but you're not hiring people on the spectrum. You're hiring. Every single person in this room is neurodiverse. Nobody's got the same lived experience. Nobody's gone through the same thing in life. Everybody's done something different. Everybody thinks differently. And putting neurodiverse people to put all of us back in a box is just another aspect to hiring. And the other one, which I think SAP has done really well, is that not every person on the spectrum is technologically savvy. And it was mentioned before, but you can't hire on the assumption that they're going to know how to code, and you can't hire on the assumption that you're putting autistic people into your coding department, because you're actually hiring against a very large portion of the autistic community. Autism presents very differently in women than it does to men, and as autistic women, you've got a 30% chance of employment compared with the overall around 40% that men have. So if you're deliberately only hiring for certain sections, you're going to miss a very large portion of autistic individuals. But I think SAP has dealt with that really well. They've got programs in the legal department, in human resources, in pre-sales, in all different aspects of the company, not just the on-the-ground coding team. And I think that's really important.
Yep, I'd agree with a lot of what Claire said in terms of not everyone's really into IT. There's lots of diverse, different skills that people have, and whilst some people might not be as comfortable in more social sort of roles, there actually are also a significant number of people who might need some more support in order to fulfil roles with those sort of dynamics, but they actually would really like to and have a lot to say and communicate and be involved in that sense. And I think a lot of it is partly the patience in building relationship and open communication side of things, because sometimes we don't know exactly what we need support with and what we need, and it's a process to figure that side of things out. Like, it's kind of sometimes a thing of people need to feel safe asking for help even if they don't know what the answer is, and you've got to work together to find it.
Thanks everybody for your answers to that. I guess one of the things we've heard throughout the day is the importance of engaging researchers, engaging experts in designing your program and so on. And I'd like you to thank this panel of experts in telling us how we should design and implement our autism at work programs. So please thank Ryan, Simon, Matthew, Claire and Tori.